Hello and welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Joining me in the studio today is my co-pilot, Jeff Harding. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm great, Kyle. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for asking. It's such a beautiful day.
Oh, it is. Gorgeous day.
It's awesome. So we've been registering athletes at the Huntsman World Senior Games over the past couple of weeks, and registrations are definitely coming in.
Yeah, great, at a great rate.
Now is the time to do that. Of course, this show is all about the games and also about the active life.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the major elements of an active life is exercise.
Yes.
Jeff, you exercise.
I try. I may not look like it, but I do try.
No, you do. You do try. You do succeed, and you do look like you exercise.
Well, thank you, Kyle.
I see how you maximize your time at work, and oftentimes at lunch, Jeff goes on a very brisk walk and gets the heart rate up, and I think that's awesome. I just appreciate that. We all know that exercise is good for us.
Very important.
Very important. But some of the things that we thought that we were doing that were right, that we should have done, I'm finding out are actually not as true as we thought that they were.
So are you going to tell me the potato chips are good to eat?
I wish I could tell you that one.
Oh, man.
I can't tell you that one. But I will tell you that some of the things that we just thought were just common sense and no-brainers are not really supported by science when it comes to exercise.
Well, like what?
Well, I've got 5 exercise myths that we're going to try to debunk.
Okay.
The first one, okay? Exercising in the fat-burning zone burns more fat. Now, have you heard of this phenomenon where you try to keep your heart rate at a certain level and ideally at that mid-range you're burning more fat? It turns out that's not necessarily the case.
What is the best? Because that's something that's important for me to know. What is the best range?
Well, we all want to know how to burn fat, right?
Right.
Well, they found that what was considered the fat-burning zone doesn't really burn fat, and that you can be burning twice the number of calories in the same amount of time or the same number of calories in half the time if you do higher intensity interval training. So you've heard of interval training where you do something intense and then you back off for a minute and then you do it again, right? So one study from 2002 found that cyclists burned fat at the highest rate when they exercised at a level equivalent to 74% of their maximum heart rate. So interval training sounds like the way to go.
Yeah. So that means if I fight with my wife, rest for a minute, and fight with my wife, I'm going to lose more weight?
Different.
I'm sorry, different.
I'm speechless. I'm not sure how to answer that. I'm going to say no. For Karen's sake, I'm going to say no.
She appreciates that, I'm sure.
Okay, myth number 2, and we've talked about this one already, so this won't be a surprise to you, but some people still might have bought into this concept, and that is that diet soda is better for weight loss. And yeah, like I said, we've talked about this one before, but research shows that drinking diet soda is actually more likely to cause weight gain than non-diet soda and may lead to other health problems that we've already talked about, including diabetes and heart disease.
I do need to emphasize that one to my wife because she lets nothing in the house but diet soda.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, we don't drink it very often. We really don't.
Yeah,
but every now and again, we'll get movie and a popcorn, and we like to have our root beer with our popcorn.
But you do the diet thing.
But we do the diet thing.
Well, it seems counterintuitive, but they found that diet soda actually it increases a person's risk to being overweight by 41% for every can or bottle of diet soft drink consumed each day.
As opposed to a regular soft drink.
One. Yeah. So obviously any kind of soft drink is not necessarily your best bet. Water is probably better for you.
Which I tend to drink a lot.
But diet sodas are not good for you. Okay, here's the next one. Eating fat makes you fat.
It doesn't?
Well, that seems like that makes sense, right?
Well, you'd think so. It's already there.
Yeah,
It
right?
doesn't have to,
To me, that seems like a no-brainer. However, this is an interesting one. There's not a strong amount of evidence that suggests saturated fats or cholesterol can be linked to the rising obesity rates and weight gain.
That is interesting. Now, my grandfather used to always, if all the scraps that were cut off the meat that my grandmother cut off.
Those.
Yes, he loved those.
Yeah.
He put gravy on it.
And my grandpa was the same way. I mean, he would eat a bowl of pork lard for breakfast. That's what he ate.
I don't think I could do that.
I don't know. I don't think I could either. But one study that followed a calorie-controlled low-carb diet that allowed for unlimited amounts of protein and fat. So in other words, they controlled their calories through carbs, but they ate as much meat and fat as they wanted. They lost the same amount of weight as subjects who followed a diet that limited fat intake to 30% of their total calories each day.
Wow, that is amazing.
Isn't that interesting?
That is
That's
really
very
amazing.
counterintuitive. I would not have guessed that was the case. These scientists, what are they going to come up with next?
That the Big Bang Theory is not true, but that's another story.
It's a totally other one. Different group of scientists.
Yes.
All right, myth number 4.
Okay.
Certain exercises can burn fat in a specific body part.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, we've been hearing that our whole lives, especially on late night infomercials, right?
Right.
But
the Thigh Master.
Yes, I think we know, you cannot spot reduce and tell your body where to get rid of fat stores by doing exercises that target that region. It just doesn't work that way.
The way I've heard is, if you do exercise your abs, trying to get reduce the fat in your stomach, you can have great muscles under your fat.
Under your fat. That's pretty much the way that it works. So if you want to reduce your fat, you need to reduce your overall body fat percentage with a combination of all exercises, healthy eating, quality sleep habits, and stress reduction.
Right.
So we know that you can't target. The last one, this is one that a lot of people kind of buy into, but carbs make you gain weight. And in reality, your body needs a certain amount of carbs, fat, and protein to function, but it does need carbs. Carbohydrates are the body's #1 go-to for fuel. So without it, you eventually lack energy, you experience that brain fog and feel depressed and moody. For weight loss and overall better health, choosing carbohydrates that come from nutritious sources like vegetables, fruits, and whole grains are actually a good way to go.
Yeah.
It's not just the carbs themselves that cause you to get fat.
You know, it's interesting. It always still goes back to, no matter what happens, it always goes back to eat better and exercise, and you'll lose weight.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
It's just like, that's what it always comes back to. No matter how many studies we want to find that try to prove the opposite.
Fall short on one side. Fall short on one side or the other.
Eat better, exercise, sleep.
Sleep. We learned about sleep.
Stay hydrated and smile. I think those are the things that we've learned over the last several months.
And we're doing very good.
Well, anyway, there you go. 5 weight loss myths debunked, or at least more things for you to think about as you're trying to,
live the healthy life.
Yeah, engage in that active life. So today, our special guest is joining us by telephone, and he is one of our amazing athletes, Mr. Richard Jolly. Richard, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your life and being with us today. We really appreciate that.
Happy to be here.
Richard lives in Logan, Utah, which is at the northern end of the state, where we are at the southern end, and he has participated in track and field at the Huntsman World Senior Games for a number of years. He specializes in the sprints and has medaled several times in the 100 meters, and we're excited once again to have you with us.
I'm happy to be here.
So tell us, Richard, have you always been involved in sports and particularly track and field, or did you start out with something else, or how did you get into sprinting and running in the games?
Well, I'm from a track family, so I started running track in 9th grade and through high school. Then we had track meets among us brothers. I'm from a family of 7 boys, so we all competed
a lot of
against
competition
each other.
growing up.
Then in the mid-30s, about the only thing available were road races, and I'm not a distance runner, but I kind of muddled through those, but they weren't very fun. So I started running, competing in Masters track when I was 57, and I found out there's a lot of track meets available for seniors, including the Huntsman Games.
Well, that's great. So when you were, as you say, muddling through your road races, what distances were you normally running? Did you do marathons, or were they 5Ks, 10Ks? What were you running?
5Ks. I tried a 10K once, and I about died.
That was just exactly 5K too many.
Yeah, right.
That's good.
I'm not cut out to be a distance runner.
Well, and obviously you've had great success with the sprint. So when you were in high school, is that was once again your area of specialty?
Right. Mainly the 400 meters.
So where do you fall in line in your family in those 7 boys?
I'm the oldest.
Oh, you were the oldest. So you were always chasing after the younger ones, trying to teach them a lesson.
They all got faster than me. I'm actually the slowest one in the family, but I tell them, I give them the hard time now. I'm now the fastest one in the
family. Karma.
Well, we're glad that we're able to at least help a little bit in that distinction here at the games. That's great. So you said you started competing in Masters events at about age 57.
Right.
And you also said that you started kind of running the road races in your 30s. Did you continue to run road races during that time, or did you take some time off?
I quit about, I think I ran the Freedom Mile in Provo when I was 34 years old, and that was my last running competition, the last time I ever run trained.
Distance running.
So when I started training at 57, I hadn't sprinted in over 20 years or more.
Wow.
So it took a while to get used to training as a master.
So what kind of brought you back to the fold, so to speak? How did you become aware of Masters events, and when did you say, "Hey, I'm 57, but I don't care. I'm gonna be a sprinter"?
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine who exercised. He's a power lifter, and I always work out, but I didn't run train. And so we're talking. I feel pretty good. I wouldn't mind trying the Utah Summer Games this year. And so we started working out, and I was so stiff I could barely run because my hips and lower back were stiff. But after a while, I got so I could run, and I got more and more into it, and learned more how to train as a master. That's really an important thing. Is you can't go back and train like you're in your 20s. So it's different.
As much as we may want to deny or argue, our bodies do change as we age.
That's true.
That is definitely true. So you said, "Hey, I'm gonna give the Utah Summer Games a try." For those who aren't familiar with the Utah Summer Games, it's the state games event that is for all ages. And you said, "Hey, I'm going to give it a try." And you fought through the aches and the pains initially. How did you do when you competed in that first race?
Well, the first race is kind of discouraging. They had combined age groups in that 100 meters, and I just got blown away. But I found out I got third in my age group, but it wasn't very encouraging. But the 400 was next, and I did a lot better. I got a silver medal in that, and beat some of the younger guys, and I got a silver in the 200 also. So it was finished okay.
Well, that's not bad at all. Congratulations. Now that was how many years ago?
That was about 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
4 years ago.
Now, Richard, I'm just curious. What are your times in the 100, 200, and 400 meters?
Well, this year I broke my 9th grade records.
Really?
And so, at the Huntsman Games, I ran a 13.39 in the 100, and a 27.6 in the 200, and a 61.8 in the 400.
Wow! And what age group were you competing in?
Well, 2 age groups this year. Huntsman Games was my first year competing in the 60 to 64 age group.
So you actually, as a 60-year-old runner, beat your 9th grade record.
Right.
That's amazing.
That is.
Congratulations. I mean, that should give hope.
I would have never believed it.
That should give hope to any of us.
400 time.
That is just amazing. If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life, and we are visiting with Richard Jolly, who is a Huntsman World Senior Games track and field athlete and has been competing at the games for a number of years, and specializes in the sprints. Now, do you do any of the other track and field events? Do you do any of the jumps or the throws or anything like that?
No, I enjoyed a lot of the events, but I just had to concentrate just on a few events. And I could probably long jump, but I just hate getting sand in my shoes.
And in your shorts?
Yeah.
So
you
just focus on the sprints.
Yeah, that's enough.
Now, did you do anything competitively in college?
No, I wasn't that fast, so I ran in a few intramural meets, but that was about it.
Well, Richard, yours is the kind of story that I love to hear. You're very typical of most of our athletes at the Huntsman World Senior Games. There's a number of our athletes that competed at a sport in high school, and then they continued that sport throughout their life, and we love when that happens too. But many of our athletes competed in high school or maybe even in college, and then for whatever reason, life happens and you move along your way, and work and family and whatever it is kind of takes precedence and priority, and rightfully so. But then later on in life, you say, hey, I'm not done. I still want to compete. I still have that drive. I'm still able. I have the tools. I'm going to make it happen. And then you take the step forward and you make it happen. And I love to hear those kinds of stories.
That is exciting. That's fun.
I think if you stay in shape, you might not be able to, have time to go out there and compete. But I've read where if you do a lot of strength training, you keep your cells in your body younger, and so when you have the time and start competing, you feel you're a lot younger than most people your age.
Well, I do think that there's something to that. I think that makes sense, and that's probably very true. So I'm curious to hear how you found out about the games and how you made the step to come down to St. George for your first Huntsman World Senior Games.
Well, after the Utah Summer Games, I didn't know there was anything else, but my friend did some research, and we found out there's every state has 2 or 3 senior games formats, so we started competing in some of them. Then we decided to do the Huntsman Games also, and went down there, and the competition is a lot tougher because you've got to run against athletes from around the world also, which is it's fun.
Those Barbadians are quite competitive, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I've been blown out several times by them in the 400.
Well, they bring a wonderful group of athletes every year from Barbados that competes, and they compete in a variety of sports, but the majority of their contingency comes to the track and field event and competes, and they're great competitors, and they're also great friends, and they really add a lot to our event. And so everybody who has participated at the track and field event at the games recognizes their presence and their uniforms and the
their
whole
spirit.
feel, their spirit, and it's great. So you came down. Let's see. You said it's been 4 years ago or 3 years ago?
It was, I think 2012 was my first year at the Huntsman Games.
Okay, all right.
If I remember right.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. So let me ask you this. What would you tell somebody who was kind of on the bubble deciding whether or not they should jump back into masters or senior sports? What advice would you have
even
for them?
start it?
Or even start it, yeah.
Well, I think what's important is you've got to get strong and get in shape first, because there's a difference between just staying in shape and competitive shape. There's a big difference. I can stay in shape if I work out a half an hour a day, but now I'm it's over 2 hours a day probably.
Oh, really? Wow. So that's interesting to me. Tell us what an average training regiment day looks like for you.
Well, your improvement happens on your hard days. That's where most of your gains come from. Then you've got to have your recovery days, which is just as important. And so I usually have a hard workout, then 2 recovery days. And in the recovery days, I just mainly do something to get the blood moving through the muscles so they can heal and don't stress out the muscles or the joints or the central nervous system.
Does that mean aerobic workout? Does that mean light weightlifting? What does that mean?
Well, for me, I walk 10 minutes on my treadmill, then go 10 minutes on my elliptical, and that's it. 20 minutes I think is enough. And I do a lot of foam rolling too.
And that's on your recovery days.
Yeah, so that's just pretty easy to do, but it's important. Also, very important to do.
So tell us a little bit about a hard day. What would you do on one of your hard training days?
Well, as a sprinter, and this is true with even elite sprinters, most of your yardage or whatever you want to call it, meters, I train either from 600 to 1,000 meters a workout, and that's all 100% effort. And I tell people, as a sprinter, 90% of my workout's resting, because every run's got to be 100%. And I'm kind of lucky. My wife always goes up there and walks while I'm warming up, and by the time I'm finished warming up, she's finished with her workouts, and she has timed every single practice run I've done last year. And I think that really helps me, because I've got to run under the clock to run 100%.
And so you've got a training partner that can really make a difference.
It really helps.
So,
and it gives you more confidence. If you know what your times are, then going into the meet, it helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think it's like anything that if you're tracking progress and tracking results, whether they're running or weightlifting or swimming or whatever it happens to be, there's got to be that little extra motivation that says, yeah, I beat my best time and now I'm going to do it again.
In my training rotation, I have a workout called the event training, which I simulate a track meet. That's usually I like to do that, before the meet, so I know about where I am, and that really helped me going into the Huntsman games because I changed race strategy in the 400, and I had a chance to practice it 3 times before the Huntsman games. It really helped a lot. I think I knocked off about 2 seconds off the 400.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's great. So you're always learning.
Every year I try to make improvements in my training routine, and every little bit helps, I think.
Now, do you have a coach that you work with, or are you just kind of self-taught and looking for improvements yourself?
I'm self-coached. I enjoy the science of training, so I've done a lot of research. YouTube, there's just a wealth of information and that you can study, and I like to watch the world-class athletes. But it's a lot of it. Training comes from experience, knowing what to do, and when injuries happen, you need to find out what the cause was and how to remedy it.
And understanding that that element, the training element, as you've mentioned, has got to be a real boon to you as you're trying to do your best. And I'm still going back to the fact that at 57 years old, you beat your 9th grade sprinting. At 60 years old.
That was last year I did that.
Yeah.
At age 60.
That's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, Richard, that's just about all the time that we have for today. We sure appreciate your time. It's been wonderful to visit with you for a few minutes and learn a little bit about how you can really stay engaged and be active later on in years and still be competitive. That's exciting.
Yeah, I would have never believed it. At age 60, I could run like I am now. It just it still surprises me.
Well, thank you for inspiring
when you're
us.
Old, it doesn't mean you have to be that out of shape.
That's true.
Well, thank you for being on the show, and maybe more importantly, thank you for being a part of the Huntsman World Senior Games. It's athletes like you that really make it happen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, that is about all the time that we have for today, but again, we're grateful to Richard for him joining us on the show today. We mentioned earlier in the show that online registration is indeed open.
It is.
And that athletes are indeed registering.
Yes,
so,
it's going fast.
Yeah, so if you are 50 years or older, take advantage of the opportunity to register, and you can do that right from our website at www.seniorgames.net. We offer 27 different sports, and there on the website you can get information on rules, schedules. As I mentioned, you can register for any of those 27 sports except for
Pickleball.
Pickleball has reached the participation cap, but we are accepting names on a waiting list. And please put your name on the waiting list. We never know what's going to happen over the next several months. There will probably be cancellations. There will probably be changes, and we would love to have people on that waiting list moved into competition slots. So don't give up hope, but do go to the website and get yourself put on the waiting list. Again, www.seniorgames.net to register today. And registrations, as I said, are going great. We're going to have a wonderful year. So if you're worried about there being competition, we're definitely going to have competition for you.
Yes, it'll be here for you.
So don't forget to tune in next Thursday, where we will continue to explore the active life on AM 1450 or FM 93.1. For those who are listening live, and for those of you outside the area, you can listen to this and any previous episodes once again from our website. Our final thought for the day: when your legs are tired, run with your heart. Until next Thursday, stay active.
Good night, everybody.